Let's welcome Jackie Thu-Hung Wong, First Five California's Executive Director. Jackie, can you introduce First Five California for those who are unfamiliar with it?
Thank you again so much for having me. Just really excited to be speaking with you today. In 1998, the voters passed an initiative called the California Children and Families Act. And so it's a statewide government establishing us as a statewide organization that provides resources to educate and support parents and caregivers in the critical role they play during the first 5 years of life.
So what does First Five California do?
Our overarching goal is to actually improve the lives of children and their families to ensure that California's children have the best possible start in life and to thrive.
Please tell us more about the latest campaign and what First Five California is doing to help California kids have the best possible start in life.
Yeah, no, really great question. I'm super excited to share with you First Five California's Stronger Starts initiative that aims to raise awareness about the impact of adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs, and the impact that toxic stress can have on young children ages 0 to 5. The campaign helps parents and caregivers and other adults in a young person's life learn about ACEs that can actually lead to toxic stress and has physiological and psychological effects on children.
Jackie, can you elaborate more on what ACEs are?
Yeah, of course. ACEs are strongly associated with some of the most common and costly serious health conditions, including suicide, heart disease, kidney failure, cancer, dementia, and diabetes. And what it is when people experience a certain trauma when they're young, things like separation from parents, or, exposure to violence and abuse in the household, they can actually develop an ACE that actually has an impact on these long-term negative health conditions.
You mentioned that ACEs can lead to toxic stress response. Can you explain what toxic stress is?
Yeah, toxic stress is different from everyday commonplace stress, if you will, like when a child is learning how to tie their shoe, or when we're holiday shopping, there's a different type of common stress out there. We're talking about a prolonged kind of release, if you will, about what I call the flight or fight response. So there's a hormone that is released when, again, in those very dangerous situations that actually prove to be beneficial to us. However, when we're talking about long-term exposure that is constant in your household, you can actually release this long-term toxic stress consistently that leads to these negative health conditions that we mentioned before.
Jackie, how can parents and caregivers recognize the signs of toxic stress?
Yeah, no. Again, one of the things that we really advise adults, parents, caregivers to pay attention to is, are there behavior changes in your young child? Are there things that, if they're really gregarious, are they more silent? Are they a little bit, maybe they need a little bit more, a few more cuddles. So again, every child is different, but what's important as a parent and caregiver is to be mindful of their behavior changes on daily in and out. And actually, really, we encourage parents to help children walk through kind of the stresses and the toxic stress they may be exposed to at that young age.
Can you elaborate on the impacts of toxic stress on children's growth?
So what happens when a young person or child is experiencing toxic stress? They might have physical symptoms like challenges sleeping, or like a lot of tummy aches or frequent illnesses, digestive problems, right? So having that toxic stress released. Emotional symptoms where they can be volatile. There could be depression, anger, anxiety, if you will, right? And then cognitive impacts such as, difficulty focusing, memory problems, and just learning difficulties in their day-to-day, when they're in their learning environments.
The symptoms that you mentioned earlier, from weakened immunity to poor physical health and slow growth and development and behavior and learning challenges. I would say a lot of maybe Asian parents might not pay so much attention to these sort of symptoms, What are some of the key advices, Jackie, that you can share with the Vietnamese parents? Because as Vietnamese woman, and I'm sure you have children, it's if you don't pay attention to them, you think it's normal.
Yeah. I think that, and I'll just speak from my own experience as a Vietnamese woman, is a lot of times we haven't been provided tools to help navigate what this experience is, right? A tummy ache, or just we're taught to a lot of times to suppress what's happening with us. And so when we know that without healing, without talking through it, without providing kind of the interventions for toxic stress, it can grow into these, again, more serious long-term, kind of more serious health conditions that have long-term negative impact. And what we know is if you don't deal with it early, it will grow with you into adulthood. And so what I would love to convey to the Vietnamese community is it's important to pay attention and be aware and learning about the impact of ACEs and long-term toxic stress to prevent kind of the long-term health of our next generation and our current generation.
Is it common to see Vietnamese children at this early age that are dealing with toxic stress? Do you see very common when you work with the Vietnamese or even with the Asian community?
I think for us, the data tells us that 62% of Californians have at least one toxic stress, right? The one ACE that leads to toxic stress. And what we know in California is over 2 million children have been identified with at least one ACE that creates this toxic stress environment. So I would say that it is more common. What we don't know is we don't talk about it. And there are certain public health official would say it is the largest unaddressed child health crisis of our time.
So definitely the parents need to pay more attention to their young children.
Yes.
Because they're so young and sometimes they don't even know how to express how they feel.
Yeah, and sometimes for us, because again, this is new research and we're trying to build this campaign. It's the first kind of this type of campaign nationally, if you will, to begin to create the environment where we can begin to talk about what toxic stress is, what ACEs is, and how to really address them. What type of tools do you need to really buffer against ACEs and toxic stress?
Thank you so much, Jackie, for joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Jackie có thể nói một vài câu tiếng Việt được không?
Nói vài câu tiếng Việt rồi, xin lỗi không có nói tiếng Việt Anh ha.
Và bố mẹ người Việt Nam xem cái buổi nói chuyện ngày hôm nay.
Hôm nay thì Thu Hương thì Hương hy vọng bố mẹ ông bà nội thì learn more about adverse child experiences. Because how we grew up, we didn't know what it was, especially coming from war. Mấy người vượt biên qua, oh my gosh, I'm getting so emotional about this. Họ mình vượt biên qua có một cái trauma, có cái stress, đúng chưa? Thì phải, we have to move through and phải sống như vậy. Mà bây giờ mình biết cái ACEs, cái trauma, cái stress cái đó actually have long-term impact cái tâm lý của mình, cái health của mình, cái tương lai của mình. Và nếu mình biết làm sao how to address it, then we can prevent that for generations to come.
Cảm ơn Jackie rất là nhiều. Thank you, Jackie. Definitely we'll see you on the next show. Cảm ơn Jackie rất là nhiều. Đến với cái chương trình ngày hôm nay để nói về toxic stress, nói về những trẻ em mà dưới 5 tuổi, có những lúc các em gặp những cái trở ngại mà không biết diễn tả như thế nào với bố mẹ mình. Và đây cũng là một cái đề tài mà bố mẹ cần phải lưu ý đến con em của mình. Đúng không, Jackie?
Yeah. Nếu muốn biết thêm thì go first5california.com.
Cảm ơn Jackie. Dạ vâng, thưa quý vị, nếu mà quý vị muốn biết thêm chi tiết, xin mời quý vị vào đó là first5california.com. Cảm ơn quý vị rất là nhiều.